Good evening, everyone. And we are at the milestone and we are reaching chapter 10. Now, what you find in chapter 10 is that it is departing from the way that we have been looking at Proverbs. Chapters 1 to 9 is somewhat in a narrative style teaching, and chapter 10 onwards, you would find that this is a collection of proverbs. Now, the word proverbs, as you can see on the screen, is mishle. Mishle. And proverbs really are proverbial sayings. Um, they are statements made that contains maxims, learnings, or some major elements that one should remember in a way where it rhymes, it's got rhythm, it does contrast, as well as synonyms. So you find the antonyms, the synonyms, they're all part and parcel of Proverbs. A Hebrew proverb is really not that much of a difference from, say, a Chinese proverb or a proverb of ancient sorts. So it is important for us to remember that Proverbs is not mysterious. Proverbs is very much a lesson that you want to teach, but it is in the form of very compact statements. And so, as long as we understand Mishle from that kind of a perspective, where there are antonyms, synonyms, rhythm, rhyme, but nevertheless, encapsulated in those statements are not only wise sayings, but instructions on how to live. So that's what we are doing now. Now, this is a collection of Solomon. And that's something that we need to realize, that it is ascribed to Solomon. So let's begin. A wise son makes a glad father. A foolish son is the grief of his mother. Now, we will start a bit slow, but we'll pick up speed along the way so that you understand how these are structured. First, you see a contrast between a father and a mother. It is about a wise son and then a foolish son. One is glad and one is grief. And so immediately you can see that this is an A and A prime. This is a contrast, but it is still an emphasis, right? It's a contrast of terms. So let's break it down. A wise son causes his father to rejoice, to be glad, right? To rejoice. And then a foolish son. A foolish son is not, I think right on the onset, we should not think about these English words as our modern day understanding. A foolish son in this case is a son who's got a description is a fat head. But a fat head really means to have confidence in the wrong thing. And this causes grief to the mother. Now, the word grief here is sorrow. Okay? And so let's tackle this from a cultural viewpoint. So let's look at this. Number one, a wise son makes a glad father, or actually it makes a father glad, right? It makes a father glad. This is the way it is supposed to be seen. The father is the one that is expressing gladness. So what is a wise son? And whenever we talk about son, from chapter 1 onwards to chapter 9, my son, my sons, all of these are talking about a very young chap in the family or in the society and in the community. And so he is generally unmarried, and the encouragement here is for the youngsters to develop wisdom. Now, when we talk about wisdom, I hope that you should recognize the fact that wisdom is also mentioned as knowledge and understanding. It is also discernment. All right, so all of these encapsulates a concept of a wise son. It's a son who knows life, who can discern differences in life, where the problems are and the problems are not. He has understanding to sort out the good and evil of life, and then be able to make good sense and decision. Now, that's the kind of son that is being described here. A wise son. And this would help the father be glad. Why? Because the son basically reflects the father. And of course, the father is happy, right? And always understand, in the cultural terms, it's a patriarchal society. The son is the pride of the father. And if the son is not displaying the good things in the eyes of the father will be very sad. Now, but the foolish son here refers to the son who places the confidence in the wrong things. Now, if you understand this background as an Israelite background, where the commands of God, the Torah of God is given in the background, where God gave it to Moses, to the Israelites. David picks it up and passes it down to Solomon. And now Solomon writes about this very clearly. You need to understand that when you put the confidence in the wrong things, it means that this foolish son is not placing confidence in God. So a wise son, on the contrary, would be putting his confidence in God. He's got knowledge of the Torah, how it instructs him, disciplines him, and whatever else we have read in the first 9 chapters. And so this particular son, called a foolish son, who places his confidence on the wrong things of life, makes his mother sorrowful. Right? So there is a contrast of a father and mother. And generally speaking, you would find that an unmarried son, no matter how old he is, listens to the mother, and the mother will feel that she has failed. And so this is important for us to understand. So the comparison and the contrast is about a wise son, and that's what the focus is on. The focus is not on the foolish son, although the foolish son is explained so that you don't do it. So you don't place confidence in the wrong thing. So this is not talking about stupidity, or he doesn't pass his exams, he can't do his A-levels. That's not foolishness in the Hebrew sense. He may be smart, but he is placing his confidence in the wrong things in life. And when you place your confidence in the wrong things in life, you are described as foolish, not wise. Nothing to do with God's Torah. That's how it would be understood. Verse 2, treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivers from death. Now again, you could see you have death, and then you have something delivering from death and profit nothing. And you could see this is also a contrast, right? It's a contrast. It is contrasting of what is truly valuable. So it says here, the treasures, the things that people have, right, of wickedness. Wickedness would be things that is away from God. So if you've got lots of valuable things that has nothing to do with God, and so it says there is no profit, there is no advantage, there's no gain, right? No gain. Anything that has no God involved is meaningless. That's what it's trying to say. So you have lots of valuable things, but it's been obtained when you are away from God. It does not have any gain, not particular worth in the eyes of God. And then this one here, righteousness. Now we have this word righteousness, and it is actually this word tzedakah. And tzedakah doesn't really mean righteousness in the moral sense. We should really understand this as being charitable, being generous, especially to the poor, to the needy, to the orphans, to the widows. That is righteousness in this case, tzedakah. All right? And so God is saying in these two lines that what is valuable is what is important to God. And tzedakah, being generous, being charitable, going out to help the poor, the needy, the weak, that is important to God. And it says here, it delivers from death, means it gives life, and that's valuable. So life is better than treasures of wickedness that has no meaning. Well, no meaning in God's eyes, right? So it doesn't mean no meaning in the eyes of society because it's money. But in the eyes of God, that is of no value because you're not be able to use it for good purpose or for what is important to God. So let's look at the third verse. The Lord will not allow the righteous soul to famish, but he casts away the desire of the wicked. Again, you could see the righteous soul as contrast to the wicked. You can see the emotions of the righteous soul is famished. The desire of the wicked. This is our contrast again, right? And so now you see, God will not allow the righteous soul to famish, and you could see this is a double negation. So in a more positive sense, you see the Lord will fill the righteous soul, meaning he will not be hungry. But he casts away. Now the word cast away is to push aside, to drive out. Whenever you think of the word drive out, it means that God doesn't want it. So God prefers the righteous soul. Now, the word righteous soul is nefesh sadiq. Sadiq. And these are the people who would do right by God. And that's what God wants. The rest who does wicked, God will just cast them away. Our next verse, in verse 4, he who has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. And so again, you could see this is a contrast, right? Poor and rich. The idea of poor means in need, right? There is lack. Rich, on the other hand, is to be wealthy, to have, well, no lack. That's why it's a contrast. But the other contrast is this. The other contrast is a slack hand and a hand of the diligent. What does that mean? Now, a slack hand is a hand that is loose, a hand that is idle, right? A hand that is lazy, a hand that is false, as opposed to the hand of the diligent. The word diligent here means, well, I guess you could say charutz here would be sharp, a sharp hand. What does a sharp hand actually mean? A sharp hand means someone who can make decisions, decisive, as well as somebody who, I guess decisive, right? Determined, right? Would be a good word. Determined. And so the hand of one who pushes through, who wants to do things, will have no lack. The one who is lying around, pretending to be busy, but actually is not, then this is about the hard worker. And God wants somebody who is hardworking, not pretending and not lazy. Just lazy means wasting time. And time is best used when it is put to good use. Right? And continuing on in verse 5, he who gathers in summer is a wise son. He who sleeps in the harvest is a son who causes shame. Now, this is a repeat of verse 1. And verse 1 is talking about how the father is glad and how the mother is sorrowed. And so in verse 5, you can see that this both are talking about different words of gathering and harvesting. And harvest and the summer harvest is really the big thing, right? It's a big thing. And so when he gathers in the summer, and summer here is for the fruits. And when that happens, he is a wise son. The word wise here, I guess you could say that he is one who is intelligent. This is not the same word as the normal word wise, but it is a word that's intelligent. He is circumspect. Circumspect means that he knows what and when to do things. So he is that kind of a son. The one who sleeps in the harvest, the idea here of sleeping is the one to be unconscious. In the harvest. Now, the word harvest here is at the time of reaping, right? Time of reaping. And he is asleep. And then he is said to be one who should be ashamed, right? He should feel shameful. He should be the one who will be disappointed. And so this is another contrast, right? An A and an A prime. And so Proverbs has a lot to do with contrast. You should be doing A and not B or A prime. Okay. So all of these are to tell you that you need to put your time to good use. Don't sleep, right? Be diligent. Be intelligent. Know what to do, when to do it, so that you are not going to be put ashamed. It's not that difficult, as you can see, that these are cultural ideas behind it, but nevertheless, it is actually very practical and very straightforward. Verse 6. Blessings are on the head of the righteous, but violence covers the mouth of the wicked. Now understand this. Head, mouth. These are parts of the body, righteous, wicked. This is another A and A prime. Okay. So the first one is in verse 6, blessings to the head of the righteous. And so whenever you talk about the head, okay, let's do righteous, right by God. Okay, you should know this. If this person is doing what is right by God, then there are blessings upon his head. And that is a very Hebrew way of speaking, when he will be anointed, he will be blessed, and blessed will be pronouncement of good things upon his head. His head is the representation of his life. Now, but violence. Now, the word violence here is Hamas. Hamas would be violence, injustice. And all of these will cover the mouth of the wicked. And the wicked is not is actually bringing forth injustice. And so the righteous is the focus, right? The righteous. And the righteous will be blessed. And that's what you want. Now, the opposite is, if you become wicked, you will be seeing injustice against you or violence against you. The memory of the righteous is blessed, but the name of the wicked will rot. Another A and A prime. And it's also about righteous and wicked. And so blessing and rotting are opposites. What does it mean? The word rot means to decay. To decay means it becomes no more. And what about the name? The name of the wicked will be remembered no more. The memory, and in this case, the remembrance of the righteous is blessed. It's always a good thing to remember what the righteous has done. But the wicked, nobody cares. And eventually, nobody wants to remember him. So it is about the memory, the memorial, the recollection of the just or of the righteous. And that's what God wants us to be. God doesn't want us to be wicked, because the eventuality is not good. The wise in heart will receive commands. A prating fool will fall. Again, you would see that receiving commands and fall are contrasts. And so a wise in heart and a prating fool are also opposites. So what does that mean? Wise in heart, this one who can discern, right? One who is intelligent, who makes good decisions. He will take commands, orders, right? Instructions of God. But the one who is foolish. Now, the one who is foolish here is understood as one who is he is somebody who has no ability, right? No ability. And at the same time, he talks a lot. So a prating fool is someone who doesn't understand, who doesn't know, but likes to talk a lot. And it says he will fall. And actually, this word fall here means that he will be thrown down. He will be cast aside. Meaning he has no value. So what is valuable is the one who is wise in heart. That's the focus here. The opposite is to tell you don't be like that. But as long as we understand how the two is contrasted, we'll be okay. He who walks with integrity walks securely. He who perverts his way will become known. Now, what does that mean? It's about walking, perverting his way, walk with integrity, pervert his way are opposites. Walk securely and become known are opposites as well. So what does that mean in English? So you look at this. The one who walks with completeness. What about completeness? Completeness really means completeness with the Torah, completeness with the instructions of God. When you conduct your life in completeness of God's laws and God's rules, then you will walk. Well, the word securely here is you walk with confidence. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. The word trust is this word here. Secure. Confidence, have confidence. Now, he who perverts his way. What do you mean pervert his way? The idea of pervert his way is to twist, being twisted, basically. Being crooked. And in Chinese, it means why. He goes out of the way of God and he twists his way and he will become known. And this word, become known, means that he will, how should you say, he will cause his ways to be known, right? I think that would be a better way. What way is that? His twisted way to become known. And then he will be shown to be one who is wrong. And so confidence is walking by God's direction. And then if you don't walk by God's direction, well, soon enough, people will know. Now, understand that this is not today's concept, it's days of Solomon. He who wings the eye causes trouble, but a prating fool will fall. So you see this again, verse 8 and verse 10, right? Verse 8 and verse 10. The one who talks a lot, but actually don't know what he's talking about, he will be thrown down. Now, he who wings an eye, now this is going to be interesting. He wings an eye or he blinks his eye. It seems that when you do that, it will give pain, injury, right? This is what it means by causes trouble. The idea here is that you will be trying to trick a person, and this will be an A and a B. This is how to cause problem. And this is what you should not do. Right? That's how it's supposed to be understood. The mouth of the righteous is a well of life. Violence covers the mouth of the wicked. Now we see this again. And this time it was here. Verse 6. Right? This is verse 6. This is verse 8. And so in this case, this is a contrast. It's about life, and the mouth of the wicked is destruction. So the mouth of the righteous, when you compare it to the mouth of the wicked, one will be injustice, violence, right? Injustice. And the other would be a well of life. The idea of well of life is quite interesting. The well of life means that you are giving a spring of life, or the spring of life, the source of life. So if somebody is righteous, whatever this person say will contribute life. But if there is the wicked, he will contribute injustice and violence. So who do we take as an example? The righteous. Because the righteous always have life. That's what it means. Verse 12. Hatred stirs strife. Now, strife here is contention. Hatred here means when you turn away, that it means that you hate, right? Stirs up. The idea of stirring up is, I guess, excite. I think excite is a good word. When you hate something or you hate someone, you are turning away from someone, you rile up contention. And then it says here, but love covers all sins. Now let's break this down. This is not all sins. This is all pesha. And that means rebellion. Right? This is not sin as with regards to the temple or the tabernacle sacrifices. So love covers all sins. The word love here is to give. Cover is to hide and thereby pardon. And so this is what the Proverbs actually mean. When you turn away from people, it causes contention. It causes people to fight, right? To have quarrel. But if you give to another person, you will be able to cover the rebellion, meaning you'll be able to bring, instead of rebellion, you will bring peace. There'll be no quarrel. This is quarrel. And if there is love, there'll be no strife. And so love is the anchor to bring completeness to a relationship. It is not about closing two eyes against rebellion. That's not what the passage means. Always have in mind that it has to be in line with God's Torah. So if you hate someone, the emotions and the attitude that you are displaying will cause people to fight. But when you display love and magnanimity towards especially people who are rebellious, who constantly disagree with you, you would find that your ability to be magnanimous will win him over, and his rebellion and quarrel will pale in light of your expression of love. That is what verse 12 is all about. Now let's look at verse 13. Wisdom is found on the lips of him who has understanding, but a rod for the back of him who is devoid of understanding. Now, this is something challenging in understanding. So let's break it down a little bit. It says here, wisdom. And wisdom here is one who practice. So when you practice wisdom. Now understand, wisdom is not a thing. Wisdom is something that you can see in action. And so wisdom, it says here, is found on the lips of him who has understanding, who has discernment. But a rod for the back of him who is devoid of understanding. Now, this is something that you need to unpack. The rod here would be a spear, is for the back of him who is devoid. Devoid means lacking. The heart. Understanding here literally means the heart, the mind. And so a rod is for the back of him who lacks understanding. So if you have a person, you can talk about the rod being the thing that stabs him at the back. And that means that he will die, right? And so wisdom is found in the lips of one who can discern life. But the one who lacks the mind, the one who lacks understanding, discernment, well, he would not survive. Wise people store up knowledge. Mouth of the foolish is near destruction. So understand this. Storing up foolish is also about this in the opposite. So let's break this down. The word store up is to hoard knowledge. So wise people, people who has intelligence, wants more intelligence. But the foolish, now in this case, you find that the word foolish here is the one who places his heart, who places the confidence, right? Place confidence in wrong thing. And when a person who talks like that, it actually brings him near to destruction, to ruin. And so basically what you find is this is an A and a A prime. And with the wise will have more knowledge so that he can have more wisdom. And so you don't want to be the one who places your confidence in the wrong thing. And so when the one who places the confidence away from God, there is no more knowledge, but it will be destruction. So you can see the opposite of knowledge right here. Opposite of knowledge is actually destruction. So in the Hebrew mind, it's very different from our modern mind. Because we always think, well, if you have not much knowledge, you'll be stupid, right? You have less knowledge. The Bible never compares knowledge to stupidity. God respects the knowledge of people, right? You can learn from anywhere, any place, and from anyone. But if you place your confidence in the thing that you should not place confidence, for example, you place confidence in man rather than in God, then that would be the foolish. And so the wise people will want to know more of God, amass more knowledge of God. But the foolish, the one who doesn't care about God, he will talk about everything that has no God. But where will it bring him? Ruin, destruction. So having knowledge is the opposite of ruin. And so that's how we should read the Proverbs, because it gives us a lot of very meaningful synonyms and very meaningful antonyms. Let's look at verse 15. The rich man's wealth is a strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. So verse 15, the man's wealth literally means the man's substance. And in those days, it's not money per se, it's material things, right? And that is the measurement of wealth. So the rich is described as his strong city. His strong city means his city is fortified. Now remember, this is a metaphor, right? When a rich man has wealth, that is going to defend him. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. Now the idea of poverty here means you have lack, right? Poverty means no inheritance. And so you have nothing. So the destruction of the poor is from their no inheritance. When they have nothing to deal with, then the poor will lose. And so when it says poor here, the one who is humble or humiliated. And so what it means is that these two are opposites. And so a rich man who knows God will have his wealth as defense, as protection. And a poor man has nothing. And so whatever he doesn't own will lead to his destruction. So wealth as a defense. Defense means he will stay strong. Now, what do you mean by a rich man's wealth? We're not just merely talking about absolute dollars and cents here. We're talking about rich in the eyes of God, that he has amassed his wealth through the right means. So don't think of rich man here means like somebody who's got lots of shares and lots of money in the bank. In the eyes of God, the man who is rich, that can call his wealth a fortified city, is one who has gained it correctly, rightly, justly. And he has done the right thing by God, which is tzedakah, which is to help, to be generous to the poor, the needy, and the weak. Now, the one who has nothing has never depended on God, and he thinks that he can do it himself, and he would have lost, and it will bring him destruction. And the word destruction here means ruin, literally. And so you could see that rich and poor is not the emphasis of how much you have, but how you obtain it or how you lost it. All right. So let us do one more before we are done for today. And that is in verse 16. The labor of the righteous, life. The wages of the wicked, sin. Now, it sounds a bit weird, isn't it? So let's take a look at this. The labor. Labor means the reward. The reward of the righteous, the just, the one right by God, leads to life, to be alive. Now the second one here is the yield, the wages. The word wages here is the income. You can say that, right? Or the produce, the fruits, basically, of the wicked. Whenever we talk about wicked, we always talk the one who walks away from God. And what happens to this person who is the opposite of the righteous? He is said to have sinned. And this word here is khatat. And it is in a noun form. So the income of the wicked is amassing what is in the eyes of God, that he has missed the mark. Missed God's expectations. Now, if you look at this as we come to a close, this is what you can glean on. There is a fruit of labor or reward, right, to the one who is righteous. And so righteous and wicked are contrasted. And so this is an A and an A prime. And it is supposed to be righteous, right by God, has life. And we've seen this before over and over and over again, just a different way of expression. For the one who walks away from God, the fruit of his labor is sin. Why sin? Is that God measures him as one who has failed. You see that? God measures the righteous as one who has passed. God measures the wicked as one who has failed. And so whatever the wicked does, the produce, the income, the fruit of his labor, is one who has failed God, and there are consequences. And so he has to repent. But the reward of the righteous, who is doing right by God, God will give life. He will continue living. God will not take his life. And that is how we understand the Proverbs in the book of Proverbs. And they are very Hebrew. And so the Hebrew concept and mentality needs to be placed on the table when we are reading this, so that we don't impose modern day Greco-Roman thinking onto ancient Hebrew proverbs. And with this, we come to the end of today's session up till verse 16.